Hey everyone, it is Dani and welcome to this update video this morning. I hope that you're all doing really wonderful, and so we're going to be taking a look at what is happening this morning across the North Atlantic. And so there is Invest 94L out there. There is a tropical wave across the Caribbean that is inducing some activity, and over in the Eastern Pacific there is a brewing hurricane. And so before I go into details, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so, and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. Alright, and so let us go ahead and get straight into it. Now, as we return to this infrared satellite imagery, there we can see the activity up to the north, and that is in association with a disturbance Invest 94L. Now, since yesterday morning, the chance has increased to 60%, so it has some time to try to get itself together, acquire those tropical or subtropical characteristics, and possibly become our next depression or storm, but it has limited time as cooler waters are ahead for it. And so as we take a look at the model intensity guidance here, we can see that compared to yesterday, most of these models are now keeping the system fairly weak, maybe just around tropical storm status, or even as a depression at the most. So some of these models here are not expecting that this is going to be intensifying a lot should it develop into something. So let's wait and see what is going to be happening, but as of now it is not a threat to land. And then now we want to go ahead and focus on the Caribbean, and so we can see here that there is all of this shower and thunderstorm activity just around the vicinity of Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, also go into Hispaniola, and so this is continuing to drift to the west in association with a tropical wave, and this is likely going to be increasing the chance of rainfall for some spots. And so we'll be looking at the rainfall maps very shortly for what is expected throughout most of the day. As we look over into most of the Lesser Antilles, going from Anguilla southward to Grenada, there isn't much. Similar story for parts of Barbados as well. There are those little cloud clusters coming in from the tropical Atlantic, might bring us some brief showers at times or so, but nothing too much. Going down to Trinidad, there is a bit of cloud cover across some spots. Jamaica looking more in the clear. ABC Islands definitely in the clear. All the action is to the north. And then as we look over into Central America, there is some activity there as well across some spots in Guatemala, Belize, but that convective activity is likely dissipating. Things looking more on the clear side for majority of the Yucatan. Going into Nicaragua, we see some activity near the Caribbean coast and also down in parts of Costa Rica and Panama. And then as we take a look in the vicinity of Jamaica, going to Cuba, the Cayman Islands, there isn't much happening right now across some spots in Jamaica, maybe for Portland and St. Thomas. There was some thunderstorm activity earlier, at least that is what satellite indicated, and so that has dissipated now though. And going up to the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands, we don't see much happening there either. And so it's been very hot for most of us, but fortunately it seems as though there is going to be a better chance, an increased chance of that rainfall. And speaking of the heat, you can go ahead over to my second channel, Weather Extras, and check out my most recent video which discusses the Caribbean belief of earthquakes being triggered by heat or hot weather, and if that is true or not. So you can go ahead and check that out. But now we're going to be taking a look at the rainfall maps, and we're starting out with the GFS model. So as it becomes more colorful, the rainfall expected is higher, and so GFS is expecting that as we're going to be progressing through most of today, there is going to be that increased chance of rainfall, that probability of rainfall for the Turks and Caicos Islands, the southeastern Bahamas, going to eastern Cuba, some sections of Jamaica, Hispaniola, and even over into some parts of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. So in terms of the Northern Caribbean, that is what the GFS is expecting, but most of that rainfall likely lingering around the vicinity of Hispaniola. Going to Central America, some substantial rainfall for some spots expected through today. Similar story for North and South America, from Colombia all the way to some spots in French Guiana. And then as we take a look at what the Euro has to show, Euro is actually expecting a bit more rainfall for some spots in Jamaica. For parts of southwestern and eastern Jamaica, there might be some more rainfall. So these models are not showing the same thing. However, they are consistent extent that the island is going to be receiving some rainfall through today. The model also expecting rainfall for some spots in eastern Cuba, going to the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos Islands, Hispaniola, and Puerto Rico. And then as we take a look at Central America, we can see here that some substantial rainfall is likely across many spots. As we saw on satellites, that there is already some of that activity taking place. So most of those higher totals likely to be concentrated around the vicinity of Nicaragua, going down into Costa Rica and Panama. Also for some sections of Colombia. And then as we head to Venezuela, going to Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, some substantial rainfall also possible for some spots. Maybe nothing too crazy. But guys, please remember that in the event of very heavy rainfall, there can be flooding. So please take the necessary precautions should there be any major heavy rainfall across your area. And we're also seeing that Euro is expecting that we could see a bit more rainfall down in parts of the southeastern Caribbean, maybe from St. Vincent southward, as well as for some sections of Trinidad and Tobago. But only time will tell if that is going to be happening, but that is what is expected. But now we want to go on to the Saharan area map. So we see that there is all that dry air and dust across some spots in the northwestern Caribbean, helping to bring these hazy skies and much drier and more stable weather conditions. And so that has been preventing any major rainfall activity. But again, all that moisture in association with that wave is going to continue toward the west and will be helping to increase that chance of rainfall. But we see that next plume of dust making its way across the tropical Atlantic, some of which is making its way into the Lesser Antilles. So it might be pretty hazy for some of you guys there. Let me know what's happening in your area. So guys, as of now, nothing new is marked for development, but we still want to watch that spot next week that models are sniffing at off the coast of Africa, where we could possibly see something try to get itself together. So only time will tell what's going to be happening for that. And that is pretty much it in terms of the Atlantic Basin and what I wanted to share with you guys in this update. And finally, we're looking over in the Eastern Pacific. Here we have Calvin. So it is a defined cyclone. We can definitely see it churning in that counterclockwise direction. And so it is just below hurricane intensity and should become a hurricane maybe by the next couple of hours. So maximum sustained winds are 70 miles per hour, and it is moving westward at 15 miles per hour. So it's not expected to become a major hurricane out there. And as a matter of fact, as it is going to be continuing toward the west and then the west-northwest, it should be encountering some cooler waters, and that should help it to start to weaken. So it's not expected to become anything too strong out there, and it is not a current threat to land. So guys, that is pretty much it for this update, and I hope that you found it to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I will respond once I get the chance, and as always, remember to be weatherwise.